Welcome to the third episode of the Manufacturing Vanguard podcast. My name is Andrew.
I'm Randy.
And we're your hosts. And we're excited to talk about some new topics today. We've had great success with the first two episodes. But as we traditionally do, Randy, we have to crack open
Most definitely
a beer. And this is called Voodoo Ranger Juice Force IPA. The pilot on this looks a little bit like some of the pilots I worked with when I was in the Air Force. So we're going to have it and we're going to try it. And it looks pretty good. I've never had this one before. And so let's give this one a shot, see what this is like. Shout out to the diehards, the Big Red One. That's whose mug I'm using, which is my son's part of that at the U.S. Army. Let's see, here we go. I got a little foam in there, which is fine because I want to get rid of all that extra gas. Let it settle down a little bit. So what's our first topic that we're talking about at the Vanguard?
Well, I'm going to talk about Sierra Space.
Oh, Sierra Space. I love space. You know, when I was a kid, I wanted to be an astronaut. That didn't happen.
I can see that. I can see you out there.
But I definitely am. I still want to go.
All right.
Go ahead.
So Sierra Space is a new company that is using delivery through space from orbit.
Okay.
They want to put inventory into space and have it so that in 90 minutes, anyone could have whatever they need. Well, whatever they have up there, I should say.
Right. So what is basically what it's a supply depot in space is what they're looking at?
Yes, they call this the beta decelerator.
Okay.
And what they would do is, let's say you have a situation where you have a combat force. They are in need of, I don't know what they would be in need of, but let's say they need something that only can be delivered through space.
Right.
It can be delivered other ways, but to get it there within 90 minutes.
It has to be in space.
Right, it has to come straight down.
Yeah, that's the fastest way to deploy from point A to point B.
Right.
So that sounds pretty cool. So I can imagine that in the Vanguard, you can actually apply that to anything in manufacturing, having huge supply depots just in space. And, you know, like I've known that lead times for the replacement of tools in a CNC machine, for example, 6 to 8 weeks in some cases. Imagine if you already had a pre-stocked supply depot in space, a little robot arm grabs the component you need, puts it in a return module that Space Sierra is doing, or Sierra Space is doing, apologize. And in 90 minutes, you've got it in your hands.
Well, you know what's really cool too? So they're going to be able to deliver this within 100 yards of you. So let's say you're out in Saudi Arabia.
Yep.
You're in the middle of the desert there.
Yeah.
And you need, let's just say water. This is something that, you know, so they're going to deliver the water to you within 90 minutes, hour and a half, you're going to have it.
Yeah.
It's going to be there within 100 yards.
I mean, I can see the huge upside for our warfighter, right? Especially if they're in an operational field, they're in the theater, and they need something right away, you know, whether it's a communication device or any kind of thermal imaging or weaponry of some sort that they need for that particular situation, or a replacement piece of equipment as well. To get within 90 minutes in real time is fantastic.
That is fantastic.
Yeah, especially for our soldiers that are out there. But I'm thinking from a manufacturing perspective, you know, and here's what I'm envisioning, because remember, we're the Manufacturing Vanguard podcast. So imagine you had a bunch of subscribers, like you have Prime for Amazon, right?
Right.
But you have Prime for Supply Depot in space, right? And
I think it would cost a little more than your Prime member.
Probably a little more. But if you had thousands of members, and they all use the same type of CNC machinery, it's possible that it could cost effective. You have a subscription service, knowing that you have the ability to be able to get a tool replacement in a moment's notice within 90 minutes instead of waiting 8 weeks, right? Because even if you ship something overnight, it's still, 24 hours of downtime is a lot of downtime. For big companies, downtime for a day, could be, $250,000, $500,000 being down in a day, right? Especially on a critical piece of machinery. So imagine if you had all these subscribers that are subscribed to Depot in Space, and they're able to quickly order a replacement component and then get it within 90 minutes, drop ship to their location. I think there's a plus side of that. Of course, to be cost effective, you need a lot to be subscribed to this service, right?
Yes. And then also, so inventory in general.
Yes.
I've always heard that's kind of, you don't want inventory. You want to make what you need on demand, and then you don't have to pay for your inventory.
No.
So It's a different service than what I would think as far as manufacturing. I think you would just make it when you need it.
Yep.
And have it. Now, if they could make it within 90 minutes and have
Yeah.
it delivered,
Yeah.
that'd be amazing.
That'd be amazing. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
absolutely. So I'm excited to hear more about Sierra Space and see what they're doing, and hopefully we'll get an update. They just finished their beta testing recently, and where they were trying out their return vehicles from space.
And we're gonna have that link in the video, right?
Yeah, we'll have a link to their site, and also they had a YouTube video where they did their first beta test for testing the return capability and the aerodynamics of their vehicles. So we're excited to hear more about what they're doing and in the future, especially helping our warfighter.
Yep.
Well, with that, I think our foam has gone down a little bit. We're able to try our Voodoo Ranger Juice Force IPA. Cheers. Here we go. No, that's pretty good. I like that.
Yeah,
I really do. Yep. Excellent. Well, let's move on to another topic. For the last decade and a half, I've been hearing about IoT, which is the Internet of Things. What's really becoming to fruition now is IIoT, which is Industry Internet of Things, which really focuses on manufacturing. Some of the data points, Randy, let me share with you here. Experts expect that global IoT manufacturing market size has grown from in 2020 to 33.2 billion, and it's going to grow in 2025 to 53.8 billion for IoT.
Wow.
And what are we talking about IoT? We're talking about connecting things, sensors, monitoring, and that sort of thing, right? There was a report done by PwC. 90% of manufacturers believe that digitizing the production process will bring more long-term benefits than risks. And I agree that you and I agree with that 100%.
We definitely do. What I would be concerned about is like other smaller shops spending the money to actually get this done.
Yeah.
So I know with our transformation, a lot of money was spent. And not everyone is in the position or maybe has the resources to do that. Although these are definitely going to help everything.
Yeah, I agree with you. But there's also low-hanging fruit. I mean, finding a good internet provider, for example, be connected in your plant. There's a lot of cost-effective ways of doing that today. All right.
Sure, and then with that, you'd have a router, and then you have your, I don't know, your firewall, the other stuff that you put together.
Absolutely. And then
finding the right solution.
Yeah, you could have sensors installed in your tanks, for example. We're dealing with metal finishing, it's a little bit different. But I think there's ways to be able to be cost effective. You just got to plan for those sort of things.
Yes.
One of the things that it mentioned to experts highlight that discrete manufacturing, transportation, logistics, costs, and utilities will spend $40 billion on IoT platforms. There's a lot of money being spent by big companies.
Right.
So that's huge. But they also add up a lot of the little companies as well. 58% of manufacturers say IoT is required to transform industrial operations digitally. I mean, that's huge. A lot of the companies, and we talked about this in a previous podcast, they are pre-internet, pre-cell phone, pre-computer. They're still using paper and pencil to do a lot of things manually. And
which I don't understand.
Like the amount of time.
Exactly. The amount of time and just in general, I don't understand how you would not do this without a computer, with something aiding you to do all this.
Yeah, I think
scheduling to.
And you read something about the challenges, right?
Yes.
And what were some of the challenges that you did?
So, some of the challenges include like low visibility with operations and shipping delays.
Yeah.
Another big thing would be inaccurate inventory due to human error. This happens a lot too. I've seen this at other places I've worked.
Yes.
Where someone says that they have so many parts available,
and they don't,
and then your shipment comes up, and then all of a sudden you don't have it. So now you have to run back to the machine or do something to try to get these parts, and everyone's freaking out because it's not there.
Yeah, and that all could be traced back to manual processes.
Yes.
Right. So imagine if you're able to check out your inventory to where every piece of inventory has a QR code, and there's a sensor monitoring what's being checked out. You don't have that problem anymore. And I mean, it
eliminates some of the human error.
Oh yeah, it's just nuts. Along that line, so there was a survey done by Oracle, and they found that implementing IoT into supply chain and workflows reduced their time to produce and fulfill orders by an average of 6 business days. That's huge.
That's a lot.
Okay?
Yes.
It also reduced downtime 26%, and here's the big one, increase productivity by 76%. That's just insane. And so I think a lot of these things, I know people hear about IoT, I say, oh, I don't have the money, I don't have it in my budget to spend. You don't have to spend it all at one time. It doesn't have to be big bang, right?
But here's another thing too. If you have a plan in place,
Yeah,
like let's just say either our facility or a CNC shop,
yeah,
if you you have a routine where you're going to put a machine down and
right,
do some maintenance on the
right.
machine.
Yeah,
It's not broken at this time.
no,
The maintenance should be faster than a broken machine. A broken machine, we're talking 3 to 4
yes,
days sometimes.
that's absolutely
And then
right.
we're talking about thousands of dollars that is not being produced by this
Yes,
machine.
yeah, and a broken machine too. You know, you may have to have a part replaced, and it may have a lead time of 6 to 8 weeks,
Oh, that's
right?
even worse.
And that
Yes,
happens
and no
all
one
the
can do
time.
that.
We hear
Yes.
that about all the time. But
Mhm.
imagine if you have a maintenance schedule that
Mhm.
was driven by upper and lower control limits through your sensors. Could be
Yes.
temperature sensors, could be uh, airflow sensors,
Mhm.
temperature sensors,
Could be vibration, even sound.
vibration sensors. Yeah,
Yes.
all that stuff.
All that.
Those are all indicators of potential problems, right?
Right. Uh-huh.
And so people being proactive in implementing these sensors. But like I said before, Randy, you don't have to spend it all at once. You can just implement it over time, a little bit at a time.
And then each time you're getting better. So
Yes.
it's a small improvement. All right, I made a step. Then all of a sudden, steps and steps and steps, and now you have a mile worth of changes that you did.
Yeah.
Incredible.
No, I totally agree with the whole concept of IoT and being proactive. What people need to realize is that the cost factor is worth it over time. You have to think about your return on investment. If you can afford one sensor on one piece of machinery, do that. You may have 20 CNC machines, 50 CNC, you don't have to spend all at once. Just do one at a time, and then over time,
Right.
before you know it, you've digitized your whole shop, right?
And just thinking about different things that we've tried.
Yeah.
So we bought silly little things on Amazon, which have worked out perfect for
Yes.
us. Right.
Yeah.
Little sensors or little digital clocks, something like that that
Yeah.
will increase our output.
What
our
about
throughput.
the Bluetooth enabled auto shut off valve?
Awesome.
I mean, that's
Yes.
crazy. That thing costs $35.
Mhm.
Okay. It's Bluetooth enabled, and you could schedule it to where it automatically closes valves for you.
Right. If we have an employee that did not close that valve,
Yes.
right? So now we don't have to come back to the shop.
Yes.
We can look on the phone or whatever we're using.
Yes.
Hit the button, it's going to turn off. Done.
Or it'll check it for us every day at 6 p.m.
Right.
and it's good to go, right?
Mhm.
And so it really
Scheduled.
is, some people are scared of these things, right? They have to realize if they do a little research, a little investigation, they can find out there's cost-effective ways of digitizing your shop and having a shop that's monitoring and being proactive. It's
Right.
it's the difference between push technology and pull technology, right? It's pushing information to you to letting you know in advance, hey, there's something going on,
Mhm.
and you
And
should
it
do
may
something.
not even be a problem,
Yeah.
but it's something that's going to tell you to look at this.
Yep.
And then you can determine, is this a problem?
Yep.
Yes or no, and
Yeah.
then fix it.
Yeah, and you
Or do nothing. Yeah.
and doing the trend analysis, right, to track it, right? You could in advance realize, hey, we're going this downward slope here. Should we do something about it before it actually becomes a problem?
Because once it's a problem, and you have a broken machine, or you
Yeah.
have a tank that's
You're
not
down.
working, or you have a
You're down.
rectifier out.
Yeah,
Yes.
I can't remember if I
And now
mentioned
you're losing money.
there was something else that I read here. Oh, here was the other one. Predicts early malfunction. So according to analyst firm, 82% of companies have experienced unplanned downtimes, and unplanned downtimes in manufacturing can cost a company as much as $260,000 per hour. Those are the big companies. But imagine a small business, costing you $2, $3, $5, $10,000 an hour. It really could be a business killer.
Oh,
right?
definitely.
And so having these early predictors to help you anticipate a problem before it happens. And that's the difference between an analog shop and a digital plant, right?
Correct.
An analog facility, you don't know it's broken until it's broken. And in a digital shop, you can get some early
And
warnings.
what's funny too is a lot of people in those analog shops, they think they have those warnings.
Yep.
So yeah, you might have a machine that will say, so many hours until this is critical.
Yes.
But even with that, you need something else to analyze it and make sure that you're on the right path.
Absolutely. It's a great topic. We're going to have some future people here with us to talk about IoT in a future podcast to explain some of the new technologies out there for sensor. the vibration things, the temperature sensors, all those other things that you wouldn't even think of that
Even
are
sound.
predictors.
I've seen that too.
Sound, is a predictor, right? You and I, when we walk in our shop, we can hear the sounds. We know.
We know what that pump is versus this pump.
Yeah, we know what they sound like.
Yes, exactly.
And so all that stuff really helps. All right, so we're going to move on to another topic, which is the analysis, a white paper that was done by the World Economic Forum, and it talks about different business models. And so we're going to provide the link for that for everybody. But what I really liked about it was they had these 7 strategies for manufacturing business models for innovation. And the first one had to do with understanding your current business model to identify your growth potentials and or growth levers. So, like in our case, what did we do in the old shop that was completely analog?
All of the work.
Yeah, it was crazy, right?
Yeah, we had to carry.
And so we decided we were going to start figuring out, okay, how can we grow and advance? And one of the things we did was we sent surveys out to our customers. So, what is it you're looking for? What do you need? And then we evaluate it against our capabilities. Could we do it?
Right.
And sure enough, one of them, we do type 2 anodizing, but our customers saying, hey, can you do type 3 hard coat? And so we evaluated, said, yeah, it's an opportunity for the new plant that we were building right at the time. And sure enough, it's been a huge success for us. The second step was selecting technologies that fit future ambitions. You and I are always talking about what space do we want to get into that's complementary with what we're doing, right? So we're looking at new services, new opportunities of stuff that we're already doing, but we're not, right? So things that lend itself to the anodizing space, the chemical conversion space, the stainless steel passivation space. What can we do to help grow those spaces that we're not doing today? So we're always looking at that. The third thing was experimenting through proof of concepts to evaluate new business models. We recently did some experiments. You don't have to be a big shop to have this big R&D department. What was an example of an R&D that we did?
5-gallon buckets that we use with different chemicals.
Yes.
To see if these new chemicals would actually work well for us.
Yeah. Small part.
We did have some good success.
We did. Yeah. We saw results and we said, okay, you know what? This could be a viable option. Then
we need to check it out, see how it works first.
Yeah.
And then think about, do we want to implement this throughout the shop?
Yes.
Or should we keep it as a small thing?
Yeah.
For certain customers?
So in that particular example you just said, Randy, we bought 8 buckets, I think at $6 a piece.
Right.
And then our chemical providers provided us samples, right, at no cost.
Right.
And we put the samples in the buckets. We had some little spare parts that we had from our customers to try things out. And overall, it cost us less than $200 to do a little R&D on some new chemicals.
Time too.
Yeah, that was it.
That's it.
And then that helped us determine, okay, do we want to do the bigger investment, right? And so that was, I think, a game changer.
But we also met the customer's need.
Yeah, exactly.
And then we figured out how to do it.
Exactly. The other one was, the fourth one was scaling technologies to unlock new value through new business models. So scaling. So what's an example for scaling in our shop that we've got? Our passivate system.
Oh, that's a good one because it can grow.
Yes.
I understand what you mean.
Because it has little adaptable modules there that if we wanted to add additional tanks or different chemistries, it's already built in.
And we have a future tank on our line.
We do.
So we can put another process there if we want to.
So it's much cheaper to build it during the project than add it to the project, right?
Yes.
And so we proactively bought things that were scalable, and it worked out really well for us. The fifth one was addressing industry challenges of challenge and skill shortage. And we're going to have a podcast dedicated to skill shortages. That's going to be coming up in a future podcast. But man, I look at the past, Randy, when you and I were doing interviews during the COVID period, and now it's night and day. We're getting a really good crop of candidates now as compared to COVID. Don't know exactly what motivated that, but we definitely are having a much better candidate pool. But we're still running short on talent when you compare us to other countries, especially China. Right. We rank, I think I read, we rank 27th in mathematic competency in the world. That is just terrible.
Yeah, that's terrible. Yeah. Especially how big our country is and all the money we have.
Yeah, and as you know, we're big supporters of Bay Area Manufacturing Association. They're very focused on apprenticeship programs, working with the technical colleges. STEM is a big factor with them. And if you guys are a member of your local manufacturer, you should be. If you're not, there's a big focus on trying to grow the youth into manufacturing, but we've got to shore that up. We're going to have a whole podcast with some guests dedicated on the skill sets for future.
That's good.
The sixth one was building the right culture for change, right?
Which is very important.
Yes.
It's difficult though because we have so many different generations that we're all working with.
Yes. And yeah, we go from 18 to 62 in our shop, right?
Correct, yes.
And so there's definitely generational gaps. And one of the areas that we focus on is, how do we address those challenges for that particular generation, but that we're still using the same kind of technology and software. And a lot of the changes we focused on was what was going to be adopted by our users or by our employees in a really easy fashion without you having to be tech savvy. And it's worked for us.
It has worked, yeah. Actually, the iPads are working very well.
Yep. QR code scanners are working well. We get that through Steelhead.
I can get the 18-year-old to do it.
Yes.
I can also get the 63-year-old.
That's fantastic.
Yes.
The other one, and the last one, the seventh one, was establishing strategic partnerships across the sector. And that is a great example. So we have a strategic alliance with what was a competitor. They're no longer a competitor. It's AdTech 2. They've been around for a few decades.
And increase our services.
And they increase their services as well.
Correct.
So, they have a specialty, and what we don't do is masking. They do painting, and a lot of our parts need masking and painting. So they do that for us. And in return, we do all their anodizing for their customers. What happens?
And pre-treatment,
what happens? Their customers, our customers, have to deal with one supplier.
Right.
So one-stop shop as far as drop-off, pickups, and invoicing and quoting. They don't have to deal with multiple providers. Our customers love that concept.
Right.
And we both benefit very well in our alliance between AdTech 2 and veteransmetal, and it's worked out. And I recommend that everybody look into that. There's so much work out there. There is so much available things to do that worrying about your competition taking your business is a ridiculous notion.
So I've worked with people who are like that.
Yeah.
And then, so everything's proprietary and they don't want to tell anyone anything.
Yes.
But I've learned so much from other people who are willing to share their knowledge.
Absolutely.
And I'm not taking their business.
No.
But I am using some of the tricks that they're telling me.
Yes. Yeah, we just had a 1-hour conference call with another finishing shop in Oregon, right? And boy, they were very thankful for it. I wasn't worried about the competition because we do parts for different parts of the United States, not just locally, because there's so much availability out there.
Right.
And if you look at all the reports out there in manufacturing, we still have so much room to grow in comparison to our competition, especially China, right? So share that information, share that knowledge, and help everybody grow.
It's definitely the best path to take.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, taking everything in, you're not going to grow.
No.
I don't think so.
No, I don't think so at all. I agree. Well, with that, let's have one more little drink here before we close out our podcast. Cheers.
Cheers.
Get a little bit more of this Voodoo Ranger. We want to remind everybody that one of our charitable organizations that we support is Celebrate Birthdays. They're going to be it's celebratebirthdays.org, I believe, and we'll put it on our channel to show you the link. 5 years are going to be celebrating pretty soon, so please help support them. They make sure that every foster child has a birthday, so it's a big organization that we support. Also, we encourage everybody to become members of your local manufacturing organization, like we are with BAMA, Bay Area Manufacturing Association. And we look forward to any questions you may have, or if you want a future podcast or particular subject you want to focus on, please let us know.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. All right, cheers. We'll see you guys next time. Take care. Bye-bye.